Philadelphia Eagles 31, Miami Dolphins 17. Eagles move to 6-1. Dolphins fall to 5-2. Jalen Hurts, a little banged up during the game, ends up with a knee brace on his left knee during the second half, but still.
Was it that scramble that he got injured on? Because when he ran there, he looked like he was limping at the end of that.
I feel like Hurts has just been hurt the whole year. Something looks off, but more specifically, he started limping on that scramble, yes.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was, like, if he got hurt on that scramble or if he already been hurt and then it just, look, he's limping.
Yeah, Hurts just feels like he's been playing banged up for the majority of the season, whatever it is. But, yeah, he fought through it, man, made some big throws. A.J. Brown, 10 catches for $137. He made some huge plays for the Eagles, including breaking 2 tackles for a touchdown, had a 42-yarder when the Eagles were running the clock out with their, I call it the service academy drives, right? The long, slow drives, but they mixed it up with a 42-yarder for A.J. Brown to kind of seal the deal in this game against the Dolphins. Eagles did a really nice job against this Dolphins offense. Dolphins had a pick 6 in there on a tip pass. Other than that, though, Eagles hold the Dolphins offense to just 10 points.
Yeah. I mean, they shut down the run first and foremost, and then the pass game was a struggle off the back of that. The Eagles, I mean, both trenches, but the Eagles' defensive line they were wrecking Miami. Now, it's not necessarily the starting Miami offensive line. One of the most impressive elements of the Mike McDaniel thing has been that offensive line has looked pretty good.
Yes.
And it's not particularly good on paper. And a bunch of people were, like, Dolphins fans are in this weird world now where they're mental. But they're all complaining, like, maybe the paper's wrong. Maybe this is just an amazing offensive line. Austin Jackson's a former first-round pick. He's clearly got talent, right? And same thing is true of Isaiah Wynn. This is a high-quality unit we've got right now. Like, okay, but it wasn't even good on the field, independent of, Mike McDaniel and this offense coming in. So let's settle down a little bit here. We know that this offense improves the performance of offensive line. Now, look, Teron Armstead is a really good player, but we also know he's going to miss time every year, and he's not out there in this game. That's a big factor. Kendall Lamb has been impressive stepping in when he's had to, but how good do we expect him to play? Robert Hunt, I think, is a pretty good player, but we're probably only still at 2 or 3 players in that line that are decent starters, and the other ones are potentially problematic. Austin Jackson has never been good and still isn't particularly good. Liam Eichenberg, a tackle in college, a guard in the NFL, is now playing center because of the reshuffles and the injuries. The line was just overmatched in this game and just couldn't handle the likes of Jalen Carter in particular, but Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, they got overwhelmed.
They did, and again, I don't want to, as I mentioned earlier, the Dolphins' offense technically got held to 10 points, but from what was the Eagles' part in that? There was a crazy drop by Tyreek Hill, wide open pass. It may not have been a touchdown. He's probably down. Would have been a touchdown. I think. Probably would have been, but there's a chance he's tackled at the 1 or 2 yard line. But either way, probably a dropped touchdown on third down. Next play, this is the ball don't lie play. Next play, the Dolphins go for it on 4th and 3. Tua kind of chucks it up. There's a bad face mask against Cedric Wilson. It's a no call.
Egregious miscall.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. We never got Terry's explanation for it.
No?
They never, because so much stuff happened after that. They go to commercial, come back, Jalen Hurts. There's a batted pass on an unblocked rusher, tipped up. Jerome Baker catches it, runs it in for a pick 6. Ball don't lie. Dolphins get the touchdown anyway.
Look, guys, sometimes you're just not paying attention. You miss the obvious face mask at the direct point where the ball is arriving.
Terry sometimes leans in favor of the official, so I was waiting for.
I think it was him yesterday that had the first couple of times he came on, he was disagreeing with the call.
No, I know he will sometimes.
Yeah.
We never really got an explanation, but I think it was obviously a missed call. But so that looked like it was a big momentum switch.
Yeah, there was some pretty bad misses in this game, official-wise. This was not. It was not I don't think it was a well-officiated game, and it was one of those games where all of the misses go in one direction, which is not going to help the.
I believe
game is rigged narrative.
I believe I saw that the Eagles did not have a penalty called against them.
They kept saying that, and yet they did, because there was an offsetting penalty where they called them offside on the tush push thing, right? Didn't they
Oh,
make them
true.
redo that? So
So in like the official penalties, they didn't.
it only
have-
goes down as like
We
they have
thought
the
that.
accepted, the declined, and then offsetting. So somebody is only looking at the accepted penalty column and not the offsetting one, which is also a penalty.
Yeah. So I think, Tyreek Hill was awesome in this game, but he had 2 drops, one of them for a touchdown. He gets open at a ridiculous level. He's incredible. They were trying to feed him on some of the short stuff too and the intermediate routes, but the 2 drops ended up
They were costly.
extremely costly. I thought Tua actually played a really good game.
The touchdown bomb to Tyreek Hill was beautiful. Perfect pass.
Yes.
And also that play, like as much as, okay, Tyreek Hill made some mistakes and they were costly mistakes. On the other hand, he invalidated a bracket coverage by just running through the middle of it.
That was Antonio Brown used to do that. There was almost an identical play where I think Big Ben hit Antonio Brown during Antonio Brown's prime, where that was it. It's like, all right, we got this. The chalkboard says safety, corner, little in-out bracket. We got this. This is easy. We're going to make Tua go somewhere else. And Tyreek Hill just splits the difference. Antonio Brown did the same thing on this. Just split the difference. Boom, put it right on him. Touchdown. It's like, man, you just created a touchdown where the chalkboard said there's no way.
Well, this is the problem is he's so fast. Like you can't bracket him in-out because he can just run through both of them.
Yeah.
Like neither guy can run with him. So if you're going to block him or if you're going to bracket him in and out, if he just runs straight past both of you, now all you've done is put 2 people in no position.
Just make it high low.
You need to take him away high low, and even then, if they just run anything horizontally, it's okay. It's a challenging throw, but the space is still there because he's running away from both those guys. You almost need, if you want to take him away, you need like 4 points. You need to box him in with 4 different defenders because he's too freaking fast.
Yeah, I mean, so it wasn't this complete domination, I don't think, by the Eagles defense or anything. I thought the Dolphins, they got hot just before the half. Tua made some incredible throws. I mean, even the broadcast highlighting his anticipation and throw into space, I thought Tua did a really nice job there. Some of the other key plays, I want to talk about Nick Sirianni and what his decisions offensively, but Tua's interception, though, ends up being a huge difference in the game. There were multiple plays on this play where the Dolphins' spacing was completely off.
Yeah.
And 2 receivers were running to the same spot.
Two
one
in
of them,
particular.
Tua threw it up, and it was caught.
Right.
This one, he kind of invites some pressure, throws it up. It gets picked off by Darius Slay. So it was basically like a wheel route to Raheem Mostert, covered by Zach Cunningham. There also may have been a little tackle there by Zach Cunningham on that play. But it's underthrown egregiously. Darius Slay was covering his receiver in the area, comes off the play, off his man to pick it off. There was some spacing issues with Miami, but also just a bad decision and bad throw by Tua.
Yeah, I haven't seen the 2 plays side by side again, but they looked like almost the same play where the first time he completed it, Chris was talking about it on the broadcast, like this play doesn't make any sense. You're not supposed to run 2 receivers to basically the same place like that, and yet Tua kind of made it work anyway by just putting the ball where only his guy could get it. Now, the reason you're not supposed to have 2 receivers in broadly the same area is because of what happened on the second play, which is sometimes the second guy is going to bring a defender into the equation that you're not accounting for because you're targeting a different receiver, right? And if he's close enough, he can just make a play on the ball. Now, the first play, nobody saw it coming early enough to do that. But the second play, Darius Slay sees it and makes that play. And it's like, I don't understand. Okay, one time, sometimes a weird thing happens. A guy like Mostert looked like he was dealing with, aggressive press coverage or whatever, and you end up running to to a place you're not supposed to be because you've been driven there or whatever. But for it to happen twice in the same game is really strange. We need to find an explanation for that. Like, what the hell was happening on those plays?
Yeah, Mostert was running out of the slot. It wasn't like a true wheel route from the backfield. But a lot of times, I don't know what's happening here. It looks like a switch release, and whoever's running, who's the outside receiver? Is that Waddle?
Yeah, I think so.
He runs more of a fade when he's probably supposed to run a post. So a lot of times what happens here is you have an option route, right? So it's a single high coverage. And if you have an option, a lot of times you have like a post corner type of option, and it's dependent on the safety. And you don't run it into the safety, you run it away from him. Or if the middle of the field's open, you run the post, right? So Waddle runs more of like a fade, which is right where Mostert's running his wheel.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's where, Darius Slay's got his eyes on the quarterback, peels off, catches the underthrows. Man, great ball skills by Slay to be able to catch that too. Those are that's one of those, like if he dropped it, probably you see guys drop those types of plays because he was able to get off his drop and get to the ball pretty quickly. Really nice job securing it. Jordan Davis had a little pressure on the play as well. So yeah, that was a huge play in the game. 24-17, early Q4. It was 3rd and 8. Dolphins, I don't know if they were going to go for it or not on that play, but yeah, down 7, big interception there for the Eagles defense. On the other side, Nick Sirianni's decisions to go for it were a big part of the game here. They had 4th and 3 early on, probably a 40-something yard field goal opportunity. They go for it on 4th and 3. This wasn't 4th and inches. This wasn't brotherly shove, tush, push, double cheek push time. This was 4th and 3. Jalen Hurts breaks away from a sack, makes a great play to A.J. Brown to convert, and then that leads to a touchdown. So Nick Sirianni's reckless decision-making. Reckless if it doesn't work. His decision-making works, leads to a touchdown, and then late in the game, Eagles running the clock. They're up a score, up 7. There's a 3rd and whatever. A.J. Brown short of the sticks. It's 4th and 1. It's not inches. It's 4th and 1 plus. And they go for it in their own territory. The same stuff that people fire Brandon Staley for every single week. Nick Sirianni. But now the answer would be, well, Nick Sirianni has answers. Like, what's the difference? Well, Sirianni knows he has pretty much a cheat code on 4th and short. He knows he has a play that's going to work 90% of the time. So when you're looking at those conversion rates, like when you run the models, 4th and 1, I forget what the actual conversion rate is. It's probably 65, 70% though. And the Eagles are running this saying ours is 90, right? Ours is different. So maybe Sirianni won't get as much credit because he's got this, but that aggressiveness twice on that drive.
Which, just for the record, by the way, is something analytics can take into account.
You don't know how good our play is. Well, actually, we do. Right?
How far do you think the range of that thing is now? Because it's not like, quarterback sneaks. It's like, for 4th and a half yard, we're good. If it's a full yard, it's a bit risky.
You would run your confidence levels. I bet it's like inches, it's 95, 98%.
They're getting
4th
close.
and 1, it's 90%. 4th and 1.5, it's 80, and then 4th and 2, it might be 70.
That's what I'm saying. This is getting pretty close to being like a legitimate 4th and 2 play. They're getting that much drive on this thing, and you watch their execution of this. It's incredible. Like, every aspect of this play is working in a way that isn't. So it's not. Everyone's sort of going, my take on it is it's Jalen Hurts in a 600-pound squat. Okay, well, that's not a factor when Dallas Goedert is literally picking him up by the ass cheeks and driving him over the offensive line. The squat is not impacting that play. I'm here to tell you.
I think it's all of it. I really think
that's the thing.
The Eagles' O-line does make this thing work.
The Eagles' offensive line does, and not just the way you think, right? It's not just the initial surge down. It's the execution of that. It's a second push they're getting. They're now folding the tackles in and behind and like driving the initial shove, right? So like the touchdown play, Lane Johnson is now like folding back in and driving behind the interior of the offensive line, in addition to Goddard and whoever the other guy is driving Jalen Hurts from behind. It's all of it put together. Nobody else is doing that. Somebody else might have a really strong quarterback. Somebody else might have a really good interior offensive line. Somebody else might be executing the shove part correctly from behind. Nobody's doing all of it at the same time, in addition to those edge blockers sort of folding back in and driving the whole thing from behind. It is unstoppable right now from an Eagles point of view. And I honestly think, like I said, we're reaching the point where it's like a 4th and 2 play. And I can only imagine they're going to run that at some point.
It does break the arithmetic on the arithmetic.
I'm kind of sad they didn't. When they got down to like the 5-yard line late in the game, I kind of wanted to see them just run it 4 times.
Just keep going.
Yeah. We're at the 5. There's a couple minutes left. We're going to punch it in with this play that you all hate.
Well, remember you talked about like Brady earlier in the show about his QB sneaks early in his career because Brady played in the dark, many years ago.
1980s.
Yes.
Yeah.
They used to run empty under center in the NFL. You never see that anymore, right? Empty under center.
Somebody did it last week.
Did they?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Need split backs. Oh, maybe, was it Josh Norris called it out? He said?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I was like, yeah, bring back split backs. But like, there were times where Brady, if he had like double three techniques, he had nobody, no nose tackle, he would just like run forward for 5.
Yeah.
Like that was a new thing in the NFL that had never been done before, because it's like, this seems logical. Let's just take the free 5 yards. But that was all part of like the QB sneak package, that it's a thing. I mean, the Eagles, do you need to have that type of formation and stance? Like, can they start breaking this out as more of a surprise? It's like 2nd and 3. It's like, why don't we just move, run forward for 5 because we can do it. It'll be interesting to see how they evolve this. It'll also be interesting to see if they ever try to run a counter off of that. Do you set up?
They did last year, they've done.
Or just how often they're able, or what they can come up with.
Now, they haven't shown one of those this year, I think. But last year they did. They ran some like weird wide stuff off this just to show teams, hey, you can't completely just stack everybody up in the A gap because we do have a wide threat off the back of this.
The Jags have done a pretty good job of that, where they get into that tight formation and then they flip it to ETN, and if you have a speed back,
I don't think the Eagles have shown any kind of wide variant off it this year, in part because it's just been completely unstoppable. I honestly think, though, I think that would get it banned, though, by the way. Like, if they just lined up and went, we have 6 yards to go, and we're going to pick up all 6 of them by 4 consecutive tush-push, brotherly shove, 2 double-cheek push things, and just because you can't stop it. We're going to grind you down. I think that would make the competition committee ban it.
I promised myself we wouldn't talk about this for 20 minutes. But
I'm fascinated by how good they are at it, and B, I think it's reaching this point now where they are so confident in how unstoppable it is that it's like a control thing. It's like, we know you can't stop this. We are going to go out every 4th down. We are going to impose our will and crush you, and you have no shot.
I'm impressed. This was one of the best all-around games by the Eagles this season. I am also fascinated by the short memories. Again, I'm overreacting to the people, but there was a whole lot of instant reaction, which is like, Eagles back to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Huh? We're like, it's rematch time. It's like literally 7 days ago, the Eagles blew a game to the Jets. And I know the Niners had a bad week, but in the rain, in Cleveland, but they still exist, right? This was the best, most complete game, though, of the Eagles, and they took it to a really impressive Dolphins offense.
Yeah, and
because the Dolphins can't play in the Mid-Atlantic or Northeast states outdoors.
You can't have both sides of this, right? You're either saying they didn't do that great a job against the Dolphins offense because they left some plays on the table, or you're saying the mid-temperatures of Philadelphia stifle this Miami offense.
The temperatures affect the entire pass game. The weather factor affects the entire pass game.
Uh-huh.
In a dome or in a controlled environment or good weather, it's better. Not that this was bad weather, but they said there might be swirling winds. And it affects the ability not just to throw the ball, but to catch it. Uh-huh. It's all a factor.
I mean, I think they did a really good job on the Miami offense.
Yeah, of course they did.
Yeah.
I also said it easily could have been, 17 they given up, but that's still a win, right? Given what the Dolphins were.
I mean, Miami left some plays on the table, but we were talking about how they were averaging 8 yards per play heading into this game. They averaged 4.9 in this game. And even if you give them credit for the plays that they left on the table, right? Tyreek Hill catches that pass and scores, they're still not getting anywhere near 8. I mean, Philadelphia took at least 2 yards per play off this offense relative to anybody else, which raises the question, were Miami simply fraudulent all the time and a product of a terrible schedule?
Oh, you went there, huh?
I'm just asking the question.
So they just beat up on some bad teams.
Now you have to answer it, and you're the one that gets in trouble. I'm simply asking questions here.
Maybe. This is why I think Tua played a better game, because in other games, you've got a little shovel pass, and you get some easier stuff. You get some more. The passes weren't as open. The windows were tighter.
Right.
And Tua made the throws.
Very little in terms of the trickery worked.
But again, was it the where did the Dolphins offense struggle the most? In New England, in Buffalo, in Philadelphia. It's not just outdoors but those are pretty decent defenses.
Yeah.
Right? So that is a fair question. I mean, we knew that the Dolphins they're not going to average 8 yards per play the entire season. We know that's the case.
Bold claim.
But we've seen this in the past with, say, even a Greatest Show on Turf. I know they won a Super Bowl, but they ran into some good defenses and got shut down. Or like an 07 Patriots or a 2013 Broncos. The best statistical offenses don't always win it, because sometimes the best stats come because you pile on against some bad teams. But in a one-game setting, can an Eagles defense take it to the Dolphins? Absolutely, and they did last night.
How good is Jalen Carter?
Oh, yeah, really good.
Like,
we've thrown you threw a Kevin Williams in his prime comp.
He really does.
Last night,
he looks like Kevin Williams, like peak Kevin Williams. And Souza.
Does anybody remember Kevin Williams?
No. Souza, but one of the most, by the way, like bizarrely forgotten dominant players ever. Like, that dude was Hall of Fame caliber defensive lineman. Everyone's like, who's Kevin Williams now? But Souza, I think, was asking on Twitter, does that make Jordan Davis Pat Williams? Like, have the Eagles recreated the Williams wall with Georgia defensive tackles? Absolutely. And you have Jordan Davis inside as this like two-gap monster, while Jalen Carter over there, Kevin Williams, just ragdolling guards one-on-one and getting into the backfield immediately. There's a lot of similarities.
Yes, absolutely. Jalen Carter still unblockable as a pass rusher. And I want to shout out Hassan Reddick, who only played 7 snaps against the run, but he played it at a 2015 Khalil Mack level, those 7 snaps against the run. So good job by Reddick. Not normally a great run defender, but he was blowing plays up early on yesterday. That was another little factor. I know Mostert ended up breaking a run or two, but early on the Dolphins had no rhythm because the Eagles did take away that running attack. It hasn't just been Tua in the passing attack, right? It's been they're averaging like 6 yards a pop in a whole bunch of games in the run game as well.
That's the thing. The sort of trick plays that they dialed up, or not even the trick, just the sort of crazy misdirection stuff that was springing guys wide the hell open with all. None of that was there yesterday. Like, the Eagles stopped that and sort of made Miami have their success in a much more conventional manner. And they had some success, but like that took a big part of that offense away.